Hi guys, welcome to today's webinar. My name's Bobby. I work for the Recruitment events company. Some of you guys have probably been to our events before across the UK. Some of you have probably been part of our webinars today. Today we're going to be looking at the misconceptions of video interviewing, something that comes up for us more often than not at most of our events. People are not having a real understanding of, I guess, the benefits, how it can affect your recruitment process, just implementation and things like that. So we've got our residential expert, Oliver Thomas from Easyrecrue. He's going to be debunking some of those myths, looking at some of the misconceptions, and then taking questions from all of you guys. So at any point today during the webinar, it's going to last for probably about half an hour or so. Feel free to shoot some questions across. You should have a question box in front of you. Alternatively, there's the chat. Just keep firing them across, and then what we'll do as we get towards the end of the webinar, we'll start answering some of those questions and hopefully give you guys something to walk away with. So I'm just going to pass you over to Oliver now. Give me 1 second. Right. Can everyone see Oliver's screen? Oliver, are you there?
I'm here. Good morning, everybody.
Fantastic. Thank you. Over to you, Oliver.
Okay, cool. So good morning, everyone. My name is Oliver Thomas. So what I'm going to do here is just run through the kind of most common misconceptions that I often get asked and the team here gets asked whenever we are at events or just meeting people and they're interested in finding out about video interviewing. So a really quick kind of introduction to me. So I've been here at Easyrecrue coming up to about 2 years. I'm kind of the sort of senior consultant here. I like to call myself the product expert. And my kind of background, I've been working in HR technology now for coming on to about 6 years or so. So previously I worked for a large global ATS and talent management vendor, which is really, really fun, but I quite quickly found out that after being there about 3 or 4 years, I was really going down the line of, it was the recruitment side and the candidate experience that kind of really, really interested me. And it's really great now to be at Easyrecrue and to try and help on that side of things. So that's my kind of background. So without any sort of more waiting, I will jump into the very first myth, which is video interviewing puts candidates off. So a lot of the time when we're talking, we'll be talking to both head of recruitment and resources and line managers, and the first stumbling block they come up against is they think candidates aren't going to want to do this. It's quite a intimidating sort of prospect when you very first think about it. And make no mistake, I mean, video interviewing has been around for a decade, nearly 15 years to be honest. But it will still be most people's first time kind of doing this, which is where the nervousness sort of comes from. However, so first off, candidate surveys that both we do, but also independent ones, which are often more important, are overwhelmingly in favour of video interviewing as opposed to being against it. Big parts of that are the candidates citing that it allows them to show more than their CV early in the process. So I like to use examples. And a good example of this is on the graduate schemes and early careers for a lot of the engineering clients we work with, within construction, engineering, that kind of thing. And what happens is they will have these apprentices or these graduates come in, and every single person, food engineering firms, they've all got a 2-1 or a first from a really good university. They're all 22, and that's about it. They all like to read books, and they all like to play football or rugby or something else. So the CVs look quite similar, and it can be quite hard to actually differentiate yourself just from the CV, which is where having these pre-recorded video interviews really gives them a chance to kind of shine when often they wouldn't. There are other things across all seniority levels, like the convenience of being able to record answers at home, using the practice question at the start to get comfortable, and also obviously there's the bonus of taking an interview without having to do it during the day when you're at work and you're struggling for a room. Try not to be seen by your line manager, run off to do a 20-minute kind of phone call. And interestingly, we've actually gained 2 new clients based purely on having candidates whose parents are senior HR managers, these candidates taking video interviews and then going and telling their parents and their family we should have a look at this. It was really interesting. I really quite liked that. And the best example of that was a few months ago when the UK CEO of a large global logistics company called me up directly and said, my son says this is great, can we have a meeting about it? Which is really cool and really nice when you get that kind of feedback. So what I'll show you to show exactly how undaunting this actually is I'm going to very quickly show you the very first part of the candidate experience. I think that could be quite a nice thing to do. So if I jump up here, and we'll just really quickly run through our sort of a demo platform to show you that it's not unnerving, and I'll do this in front of you and you can see. So what we will do, if we just click on enter, the candidate has been sent a link that's personalized to them, so they don't have to register, don't have to do any of that. You immediately see, and it's really important, be it us or another vendor, that you walk through you sort of let the candidates know what's going to happen. It will be their first time, so you run them through everything, make them get comfortable, run through the equipment tests. I'll probably pop up on your screen fairly soon, so I'm really sorry if I do. There we go, but it does mean that it's worked properly, so hello everybody. This is not actually Singapore or wherever it's supposed to be, that's a painting. So let's just move on and go, okay. We'll do a quick audio test, which should work. There we go, lovely. And then I'll just quickly show you the practice area because people are often worried, you know, they'll be daunted. They have all this time in the world just to sit there and redo practice questions and see how things are going. So what is it asking me to practice? First, this is the first video interview, and what do you think about it? Okay. This is not my first video interview. This is probably my 700th video interview that I've done, and I think it's absolutely brilliant, and I hope you all do as well. So we'll just finish that. And there you go. And that's the sort of practice side. That's the practice question. And that's how candidates get a lot more comfortable. And I think it really shows just how easy it kind of is to do that. So if we then just jump back in, and they can redo this question as many times as they want, and it will jump up and they can redo it. So hopefully that will be first myth debunked with an example as well. Next myth that we often get asked. Hiring managers prefer to do their own interviewing. Now, this isn't designed, video interviewing is not designed to stop hiring managers interviewing. The main point of it is to actually allow them to interview better candidates and save time. So what it does is it actually allows them to spend less time interviewing and more time doing the actual kind of everyday jobs rather than kind of wasting time. And what I mean by that is that typically, again, if I give an example of one of our clients, a global media and entertainment and film company, what they do is they have their internal recruitment team, the video interviews come in, and previously they would just get them to jump on a telephone interview with the hiring manager. And that could take 20 minutes or so, and it takes up a lot of time from this interviewing. But what they do instead now is they will send out, and all these apprentices, graduates, mid-level people will send their video interviews back in. The recruiters have a look at them. They decide which ones they want to forward onto the line manager. These show up in the line manager's inbox on his little platform. He can breeze through these quick interviews on his phone, while he's at home, when he's on his lunch breaks, or whatever he wants to do, and then just pick who he wants to bring through to assessment centres and meet face to face. So what it ends up doing is that the hiring managers actually end up interviewing less people, but the people they're interviewing are they've been qualified better, and they're actually sort of better level of candidate. So directly from that, the kind of ratio of interview to hire it goes up, and it's absolutely fantastic. So again, quite a nice example of that. Yeah, and again, we're not trying to get rid of that stage. It's just purely to try and make things easier for the hiring manager. Next myth: video interviewing does not work in my industry. Now, some people often say this, and it can be a worry. But really, it doesn't depend on the industry. It's far more about your current recruitment processes and if they can be improved. So all industries are looking for the exact same thing, and all recruiters. Improving the time and cost to hire whilst improving the quality of hire and also the candidate experience. It's kind of a no-brainer. It's not rocket science. It's very new. Or it's not new, sorry. So as an example of clients that we work with, there are obvious ones. So we work with a lot of law firms, engineering companies, and financial services companies because, and it's no secret, they often have the highest cost per hire, so it makes sense for them to be doing something that will save time and that kind of thing. But other companies we have will be things like travel agencies, care homes, universities, retail stores, recruitment agencies, RPOs, public sector, almost anyone who can sort of benefit from this experience. And we often have, people will say, a lot of our people are out on the road, and a lot of them might not, have time to go home and do it on the laptop. But due to the kind of smartphone apps and tablets, so many people do these interviews on the go, and it works absolutely perfectly for them. So I really don't think the saying it won't work in our industry it's in my eyes, it's sort of a little bit of a cop-out. I think it's just how you approach it kind of properly. So video interviewing is only suitable for high volume and graduate recruitment. Now, I can completely understand where this conception comes from. Most of our clients do actually often start at the graduate and intern level because they're the highest volume and it's the easiest to show immediate ROI, and it makes complete sense to start using the platform on this kind of high volume roles. However, the actual value of reducing time to hire and increasing quality of candidate is applicable to all seniority levels. It allows all levels of seniority to complete video interviews in their own time, which is one bonus. It's also especially effective for anyone who is in any form of customer-facing role, regardless of level. So here we might be thinking, senior sales reps, senior marketing professionals, people in PR, anything like that. And again, regardless of level, because it is so much quicker to review a video compared to a full telephone interview, what's quite nice now actually is our clients actually tend to invite candidates who they normally would not invite to a telephone interview. And by that what I mean are the people who maybe fall ever so slightly short of experience or skill set on their CV. And that could be a graduate level, apprentice level, that could be a senior management level. But because it's so much quicker to review them, what they'll actually do is invite the people who they normally wouldn't take those 20 minutes out on a telephone interview, get them to do a video interview, it comes back, and that's when you suddenly start finding these kind of hidden gems, the kind of diamonds in the rough who normally wouldn't be included in the process at all. But you start looking at this video of someone, and you think, okay, this is actually, the experience maybe not quite there, but culturally they are absolutely perfect for us, and we really think they'd be a great addition. So then, bring into a face-to-face interview, assessment center, kind of whatever you would like. There is also the side on very senior levels. Sometimes you may not want them to do a pre-recorded video interview. What you can do is do the live video interview, which is then a completely sort of recorded version of that sits in the platform, and you can then share that around with your colleagues. So that works very well if people are very senior, or say they're in different countries, and there are sort of logistical reasons as to why they might not be able to come to the office sort of immediately. On to the next myth. I prefer face-to-face interviews. I really like face-to-face interviews, and I would very rarely ever advocate replacing a face-to-face interview with a pre-recorded video interview. If people do replace a stage in their recruitment process with these video interviews, it's almost always going to be the telephone interview. And the reasons for that are there are quite a few. So one would be obviously the time saving. It's a lot quicker to review the videos, but also I'm sure we've all had a telephone interview with a candidate who looks amazing on paper, and within 2-3 minutes or so, this person is not right. He's not a right fit for a company at all. But I'm going to be quite cynical here. You can't just put the phone down on them because it's a bad experience for the candidate. It's mean from your perspective. And also, it's not that great from a branding perspective. But if you're looking through video interviews and you think, yeah, they're probably not going to be right, you can just skip across to the next one. Obviously, give your reasons as to why, but that's one thing you can do there. So yeah, the point is not to get rid of face-to-face interviews. The point of this is to increase the quality of candidates that you actually meet face-to-face. So if you imagine, say, a funnel, it's all about kind of widening at the top the amount of people that you are inviting, but then the ones that at the bottom you're actually interviewing would actually decrease, but is kind of bigger in quality. So another example of that is another one of our global clients who used to run they on their sort of grad schemes they run assessment centres, and they would have a telephone interview, and then they would have assessment centre, and during the assessment centre the line managers would interview people as well at the end of the day. And what they do now is they replace that telephone interview with the video interviews, and the line managers have already seen these pre-recorded video interviews, and then they only invite the people to assessment centre who they think are absolutely brilliant. And when they first started, they were actually inviting the ones they thought were brilliant, and also the ones that didn't do quite so well but had really good CVs. And surprise, surprise, the people who did really well at the assessment centres were the ones who did really, really well in the pre-recorded video interview. So now they actually have less people at the assessment centres, but end up hiring almost all of them. And it's really nice to get that kind of feedback. So this is the final myth, and it's actually the one that I get asked the most, and it's probably the most important one. And probably some of you were actually thinking about this already. Yeah, it's definitely the one I get asked the most at events and public demonstrations. Now, video interviewing encourages discrimination. So the key point here is that it does not encourage discrimination. The way we view it and the way it's used is to essentially sort of find and stop bias earlier in the process, and I'll sort of explain why and how we do that. So so first point, the point of having a set of pre-recorded questions and set time limits for each question is that every single person for the role taking these questions has the exact same questions and the exact time to answer and the exact same prep time and the exact same deadlines as everybody else. It's then about as sort of meritocratic as you can possibly make it. You can't deviate from those questions based on if you had own internal conscious or unconscious biases. You can't change those questions to suit something else. Everyone's got the exact same chance for these questions. And now onto the actual, when people are reviewing, you know, the arguments people say is that you've got this video in front of you, there's no one watching you, you can just discriminate if you want to, or have some form of unconscious bias or anything. First point to clear up, and it is cynical and it's not great, but if a recruiter or hiring manager is going to discriminate during your hiring process, conscious or unconsciously, they're going to do it regardless of what technology they use or do not use. However, the way our system works and the way video interviewing works is we try and make it as collaborative as possible. So with a collaborative model and it constantly leaving an audit trail, it actually allows you to spot these kind of biases in the first place and actually earlier in the process, and then do something about it. Whereas if it was just telephone interviews or face-to-face, you may not have that oversight. So so for the next bit, I will just again jump into the platform for the final time and show you exactly what I mean by that and kind of give you a flavour of that. So if I jump, oh wow, it's still running me through a video interview. This is now all being recorded. Right, go away, Oliver. So we are now in the back end, in the actual recruiter side of the platform. You can see that you can see my previous demo interview that I did this morning. You can see that I like Game of Thrones quite a bit, and I'm really upset that you probably have to wait 2 years for the next one. We can quickly see here the current campaigns and things I'm working on. So let me have a look at a candidate and a kind of hiring process where people have already done these interviews, and I'll show you what I mean by how we sort of combat the bias side. So you can see here, these are all the candidates who have completed video interviews, and most of these are just all the guys that I work with in the office, apart from several ones of myself. So we can arrange it by how they've kind of been evaluated. So we can see here this Oliver Thomas chap apparently was an absolutely fantastic candidate. Everybody loved him, and then you can see my colleague here, Liam, did not do so well, so more practice for Liam. But if we jump into Oliver Thomas, you can look at his answers, you can skim through the videos, you can see how he did on these sort of maths questions, you can see how many languages that I've lied about being able to speak, and free text answers, that kind of thing. And you can also see that myself as a recruiter have given this person 5 stars across the board because I thought he was brilliant. But what helps here is if I then hover over, I've included several people in this hiring process. So what I've done is I've included, for an example, colleagues and hiring managers, other recruiters, that kind of thing. So if I hover over here, I can see that actually everybody has actually thought, wow, this guy was amazing. He completely blew it out the water. And is given generally 5 stars on pretty much everything, so he's absolutely nailed it. Apart from Liam Hewison, who you can see here, so this is a hiring manager. You can actually see that he has not gotten on board with this candidate at all. He, you know, he doesn't think he's done very well compared to the others. So what does that mean? So we can see that what that essentially means is kind of one of two things. Either Liam is not aligned with the kind of values that we are using to grade this person, and doesn't share the similar, you know, in that case maybe they just need extra training. They need to be more aligned, or maybe there's something else kind of going on there behind the scenes. And what you can then do is basically report on, say, all of Liam's activity compared to ours, and see if that's a continual kind of thing, and you know, try and spot if something sort of strange is going on there. The other way we sort of do this is that whenever people are sort of rating candidates, they need to leave sort of their opinions and comments and justify why they have kind of chosen this candidate, why they think they're good. And that's really good for two ways. One is that people can justify if they think someone's bad, and that also actually helps if someone thinks they've been discriminated against due to a video interview, which unfortunately has happened before. But then you have a complete audit trail of your entire decision-making process and why, and can prove that that was not the case. So it works both ways, really. So that's how we kind of combat discrimination, unconscious bias, that kind of thing. And I believe that then actually brings me to the end of the myths. And you can see I still haven't actually worked out how to start a slideshow just on one slide by itself. So that's the end of that. I hope everybody enjoyed that. I haven't been paying attention to see if there are questions coming in, but if anyone wants to discuss or any questions, please do just let me know.
Cheers for that, Ollie, mate. That was fantastic. I'm going to leave it on your screen just for now. So we've had a few questions come in. The first one from Dan Fox. Bit of a statement, but I guess could be a question. Essentially, he's talking about passive candidates in the market and how they might be less inclined to do video interviews. So he finds himself at the moment having to swap between standard interviews and video. Is there any kind of suggestion on the way you can approach more passive candidates to actually get into the use of AI?
Yeah, so that is it's really a question. It is something that is quite tricky because first and foremost, this is, I'll be quite upfront, video interviewing is not a it's not a sort of you know, active tool for trying to grab more candidates. So for example, I often get asked, you know, what kind of candidates is this not correct for? You would not get someone to do a pre-recorded video interview if you were trying to headhunt someone, for example, from a company. You would want it to be as quick a process as possible on that front. What you can do for more passive candidates, though, if they are interested, is the way we work is that you can invite candidates to take video interviews in two different ways. So one is by directly from the platform, or if you have an integration from your ATS, inviting them, sending an email link directly to them. They click on that link and they start doing the interview. But what you can also do is what we call a public link. This is actually how universities tend to use this for people practicing in their careers department. But also if people are lacking in, or they want, you know, spontaneous applications, that kind of thing. So what you would then do is you would actually build your own kind of video interview. And rather than invite people to do that, you would take this link, and it could be broad questions, you know, why might you be interested in working for us, this kind of thing, and you would paste that link essentially anywhere, which is what I've done here. And then the only difference there is that rather than people going straight into the video interview, when they click enter, they would actually just fill in their details, so first name, last name, email address, and then it would take them, they can do a video interview kind of whenever they want. And that can be used as more of a kind of attraction tool. The good part about that is anyone can do that video interview, and the bad part is that anyone can do that video interview, so it kind of depends.
No, that's fair enough. That makes sense. Another question here from Katie O'Sullivan. Does it always have to be a 5-star rating, or can the client choose a different number in the back office? I guess that the question there is what's the kind of flexibility with making it more bespoke on your back office?
Sure. So by default, it is only it's 5 stars. Actually, interestingly, we can immediately switch it between 5 stars and 20 stars. And the 20 stars come from a lot of universities use a kind of 20-star rating system across Europe. Typically, it is only 5 stars, but if a client then wants that changed, then we can change that for them. They can't do it themselves, they just ask us, and then it's changed in sort of a couple of days. But it's something we can do, but it's just a bit more, it's a very, very small piece of like development work on our side. But we would put that in, and again, that's not something we would kind of charge for either. It would just be something you asked us to do, and we would then do that.
Awesome. I guess one of the age-old questions, this one's actually from me. There are, I guess, plenty of live video tools around the internet, like Skype and Google Hangouts. What's the main differences?
Sure. So the closest thing to say that is ignoring the pre-recorded video interview side and sort of looking on the live interviewing bit. So what we would do then is, Skype's great and everybody has Skype and goes to meeting, this kind of thing. But generally, the first thing is you have to download something and try and make it work and sort of get it through firewalls and everything like that. Our version is completely SaaS, so there's nothing to actually download. But also, the important part is it's fully branded, the live platform. So it'll still look like this. This is our own branding, but it could look however you would like it to look. It's then also recorded, and you can sort of download those videos and share them around. You also have nice things, like if I wanted to set up a live video interview, you have a little kind of scheduling bit. Let's just move this out of the way. So if I was to click here, just do a live interview, I could quite literally say, I want to do a live interview with Bobby. And then I'd say, okay, Bobby, I'm going to be cruel. On a Saturday, I want to interview you, and you can pick times between 11, 12, and 1, and that would fire across to you, and then you can pick which option works best for you, and it would just then populate our diaries, and then we do a live video interview. So those are the kind of main differences, really.
Scheduling, yeah, scheduling is important, and it's coming up more and more at our events. We've got another question here from Chris McLean. Said you mentioned millennial stats, but do you have any stats regarding different age categories and their personal views on video interviews?
So we do, and I can send those across. I don't know them off by heart, but interestingly, I was actually at a prospect meeting about a month ago or so, and they were looking to change from their current supplier, and were kind of looking at us. And we were running through, how they've been doing with different sort of seniority levels and different age groups and different sort of levels. And what was actually interesting is they said on the pre-recorded video side, the people who were actually giving them the highest return rate were people who were sort of middle management, sort of from between the ages of, say, 40 and 55, and it kind of went against the initial logic, but they were absolutely loving it, mostly because they were so busy normally during the days, they could then kind of do it at home. We've got those figures, and I'll try and get those out to everybody. There were some other interesting observations they had too. One which kind of made me laugh is that no matter what the age group people were, and no matter what the level, when they sent the pre-recorded videos out to people, you give them a deadline to answer. So 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 7 days. Typically, people do between 5 and 7 days. And one of our clients found that no matter how long they gave them, whether they gave them a week or they gave them 2 days, 80% of people would do it on the final day. Which I think is exactly what I would do as well. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it does. I guess more of around the actual product itself. Like how does the actual system work, pricing wise? Is it a case that you pay on a cost per interview? Is it a credit system?
Sure. So we actually work on a licensing system. So we've always thought before about a credit system, and that's what I think most of our platforms kind of do. I'm quite against a credit-based system purely because then, if you buy 300 video interviews to send out, you're going to be a bit more careful about who you're sending those to because you've always got this timer kind of going down. And I also don't think it scales very well if you're doing really high volume. You have to work out some other kind of agreement. What we do is everything is unlimited, so you have unlimited video interviews, unlimited candidates, all of that. We don't generally charge for, say, ATS integrations. There's very little development work we would ever charge for. The only thing that we do is the licenses for kind of like the super users. So those are the recruiters or administrators who need to use the system kind of daily and actually create these campaigns, these interviews, and send them out. you can then actually have several line managers attached as well who are only reviewers, and we don't charge for those either. One of our largest clients have around 10 licenses for the recruitment team. They have about 200 line managers who are just sitting on the platform. So that during these grad schemes, they work globally. The recruiters will look at a video and then they'll just flag 5 of them to say someone who's hiring for a tax analyst in Switzerland, and it will fire out to them. Then they have a look, and then they can, review them and decide if they want to bring them through. So that's kind of how our licensing model works.
Cool, awesome. We've got another question from Dan Fox. I have an issue with passive candidates for branch manager roles. Not everyone wants to put themselves through a video interview until they're really brought into the company/role. Sometimes it's just easier to do a telephone interview. Is there any advice to overcome this?
Sure. So the number one thing I find, we work quite closely with clients to try and increase, we call it the return rates, which is the percentage of people that complete the video interview compared to people who are invited. Yeah. The number one thing for increasing that, no matter what kind of company you are, at least in my opinion, what we find from the stats, is if people are applying through your website, make candidates know as early as possible that if they get to a certain point, they will do a video interview, and then justify the reasons as to why they're going to be doing it. It'll allow us to. You might not get an interview if we're just in telephone interviews, but you will do if it's a video interview. You'll be able to express yourself more. These are reasons why we're doing it. It's quicker. We can get back to you quicker. We actually have a retail client who is up north, and they do. They're mostly hiring for salespeople in store, and they do like bathroom fittings and furniture and this kind of thing. And they actually have our highest return rates of candidates across the entire company. They're currently sitting, at least this year, they're sitting at 100% return rate, which is crazy. And last year it was 98, 97%, and it's just because they manage the process so well, and they let people know immediately this is kind of what they're going to be doing. There are other little bits you can do, like in the platform you can actually have an introduction video, and if you've recorded an introduction video of yourself saying hi to the candidates, and it shows that you're not afraid to put yourself out there as well. And you can also ask the questions by video. A lot of our grad scheme guys do that, just to try and put them at ease and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we use video internally here. I think for us, we use it more as a screening tool. We advertise our jobs on various websites and get anywhere between 50 to 100, sometimes thousands of applications. For us, for some of our roles, market roles, sales roles, it's almost that first step. If people are willing to take that jump and actually commit to doing a video interview, then they're already kind of past that first level of engagement.
It's a really, really, really good point. There's a global travel agency that we work with, and their return rate is around 75%. And we were talking to them, their head of talent acquisition, about we can try and work on things to improve that. And he said, no, we get so many applications, we view this as a completely natural filter, because it's so easy to apply for some of these roles. Just click and one page apply sort of thing. He's saying if those 30% of people do not want to do the video interview in our process, then we don't really want them working for us. Because the other 70% do. It depends on how you're sort of viewing it, but that's a thought that I subscribe to as well.
Yeah, we had. I mean, it's funny, with our marketing manager, if we looked at her CV when she first applied a couple of years ago, and it wasn't anywhere near as good as she came across on the video. So yeah, we completely buy into it. Guys, is there any more questions at all before we wrap up? I'm just having a quick look on the questions at the moment. What we'll do is this webinar has been recorded, so we will share it out with everyone. If you have any questions, you can just fire them across. All of Oliver's details will be on the actual email itself. I'm just going to shut down now. Oliver, thank you for that.